Well, it is that time once again to be taking a look at yet another Doctor Who Big Finish audio drama release. In today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the second volume of Adventures as a part of the brand new 10th Doctor era of stories, which is of course entitled Dalek Universe, featuring Anya Kingdom as portrayed by Jane Slavin, alongside Joe Sims as Mark 7. This release is available to order now on the Big Finish website in a number of different formats, including digital download, CD and vinyl. You can in fact also purchase this release inside a bundle along with the other volumes released as a part of this series, as well as the prequel 4th Doctor story, The Dalek Protocol. Volume 1 and Volume 2 are available to order now, and of course Volume 3 is due out later this year, I do believe in October, and I'm very much looking forward to the conclusion of this series. As I mentioned within the previous review of Volume 1, I've been very busy over the past few months, therefore I'm only just getting around to catching up with this series and being able to review both volumes together in quite quick succession. So yes, it's been quite a journey so far, however a very, very rewarding one indeed. I most certainly recommend this series to those of you that like Dalek stories and action-packed Doctor Who adventures. Within the previous volume, we had the House of Kingdom, delving into Anya Kingdom's backstory, and now it's time for Mark 7 to have his own focus story with the Cycle of Destruction, written by Roy Gill. Now of course I've been listening to Big Finish for quite a number of years, and I can recall first listening to a Roy Gill script, and it is an absolute joy seeing his writing style develop throughout the past few years, and here he is writing yet another 10th Doctor story after his previous one being The Creeping Death. It's great to see him being involved within a massive plot arc, as his writing is always very refreshing and exciting to listen to. Following on from the previous volume, the Doctor and team are on the search for Professor Abarek, who possesses time travel understanding, to unite the Doctor with his TARDIS. Arriving at the Alark Institute, we have a story all about artificial intelligence and the boundaries between tech and humanity, and of course more importantly, androids. A story like this wouldn't look out of place within the Robots spin-off series, and as a result has a rather nice commentary on the idea of relationships between technology and humans. This story provides a great opportunity to dig into the foundations of Mark 7's character, giving him a background which stretches beyond merely being an android helper. As the story synopsis states, this is a complex where Mark 7 originated from, and therefore it would be no spoiler to say we get a glimpse into the world of his own android people. Even though Mark has an assistant-style role throughout the previous volumes, I still appreciate his presence, his witty one-liners and lack of grasp of human sayings. Although he did lack in a detailed backstory, unlike the likes of Anya Kingdom by the end of the first volume, his character has so far been enjoyable, and this story digs a little bit deeper into the person that he is, which as a listener I really did enjoy. And as a result, within the first 4 one-hour episodes, this team now feel fully established. That sense of closeness and friendship that has been pretty solid since the end of Volume 1, Episode 2, once certain difficulties are faced and partly forgotten. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm surprised that they do work together so well, and as a listener there is already that sense of familiarity when I listen to this TARDIS team interact. We are now 5 episodes into Dalek Universe, and with the exception of the prequel Dalek Protocol, we have our first Dalek story. And even then, Trojan Dalek, as written by John Dorney, isn't exactly a traditional Dalek episode, which I am so happy to see. Frankly, we have had 50 plus years of Dalek stories, and had this been a series with even more usual Dalek invasion pieces about Dalek mining, Dalek war, shooty explosion-based adventures, it would not be getting the attention that this series has had by the audience so far. As the title and lovely cover art suggests, we have humanity making their own infiltration Daleks, in order to trick the actual Daleks into starting an attack within their own ranks. Humanity making their own Daleks, again, isn't necessarily an original concept. In fact, we've seen it as recently as the New Year's Day special, Revolution of the Daleks. But to give you a taster of what this story does, we don't actually see real Daleks throughout the entirety of this episode. We evade the usual purity Dalek versus Dalek plot, for instead an episode focusing on how monstrous humans can be, which in my eyes makes for much more interesting listening. The boundaries between what's right and wrong and the parallels of the Time War, the Time Lords becoming rather similar to the very force that they are fighting against, is very present throughout this story, as described within this serial, fighting fire with fire. David Tennant really excels towards the end of this story, and I'm really enjoying his portrayal throughout this series as a whole. The ending of this episode possibly offers one of his best performances, along with The Lost, which is the next episode within this volume. I think it's very clear at this point within the series that the dynamic between him, Anya and Mark is simply so strong. The Doctor is remarking at this point that they are both good people, when originally at the outset of this series he was a little bit unsure about them both, in particular Anya Kingdom, given that past within the Fourth Doctor adventures and the alias of Anne Kelso. The Trojan Daleks themselves are superbly written. They are dark and sinister, and there's a little bit of body horror thrown in there as well, for good measure. All of this in fact reminds me of the early Big Finish Dalek stories, that gruesome element that reminds you what's within the Dalek case, the likes of Jubilee and the Apocalypse element. The narrative has quite a number of emotional moments, making for a gripping, enjoyable listen, leading well into this volume's concluding story. As we have now seen multiple releases with the 10th Doctor, it's great to see that Big Finish are finally expanding out from the safer story template and delivering something more experimental. The entirety of Dalek universe so far can be complimented for that, as this is a very grand scope story, but the final episode of this volume, being The Lost, as written by Rob Valentine, takes this to a whole new level. After some spaceship issues, the Doctor and Claw are plummeted into a bubble outside our own universe, a world in an isolated, dreamlike state, where they meet the omnipotent Lost. This story is an integral one for the development of the Doctor and Anya's relationship, dealing with the secrets and emotions both of these characters hold, which have been keeping from each other throughout the duration of this series so far. Both Jane Slavin and David Tennant offer what is possibly their best performances for this series to date. It's an emotionally manipulative story, whilst dealing with the events this series has thrown at the characters so far, whilst simultaneously bringing in events from Doctor Who's TV canon and Big Finish canon, simply to rub salt in the wounds for everyone involved. Thanks Rob Valentine for making our protagonists suffer. You do it beautifully. And again, there is a few spoilers that I'm not going to mention throughout this review. There is also a number of moments throughout this story that the 10th Doctor mentions things which have happened within the Big Finish universe, which, being a Doctor Who fan who has wanted Big Finish to be acknowledged for simply so long, the likes of hearing the 8th Doctor mention the companions of his character within the Night of the Doctor on TV, are moments which really make me excited to be a Big Finish fan. Seeing David Tennant mention things that have happened within Big Finish audio dramas, a Doctor from new series Doctor Who, is very exciting indeed. Naturally, as this series goes on, I do need to cut more and more out of my story descriptions within these reviews in order to avoid spoilers. However, what I can say is that I do like the cumulative effect of this story, albeit relying a lot on sci-fi technobabble resolutions, but I don't mind too much. To me, this episode is all about character. The Lost is a great godly concept, which if you like slightly less drama and more character-focused stories, this is one for you, because the Lost is a character that really digs into these characters' emotions. He really makes them suffer throughout this episode. I love the way that the Lost takes both of the characters away from each other, basically in order to make them suffer by themselves, as opposed to being able to let them work together and ultimately defeat the Force at the end of this story. It's an episode that I really enjoyed, however I can appreciate it may not be for everyone. Dalek Universe 2 continues to build what is already a rather successful series concept. It's a groundbreaking sci-fi adventure, and Big Finish have officially put their mark on the 10th Doctor. Each story within this volume, as well as Volume 1, does something different and new. It's refreshing and enjoyable. My only concern is that for a series entitled Dalek Universe, we are seeing so little Dalek content, and that isn't necessarily a criticism, as I love of the stories that we've heard so far, but my concern lies with leaving so much Dalek involvement to the third volume. Volume 1 and Volume 2 have been very strong box sets, and I just don't want to leave a lot of plot arc elements to the third and final volume, which overall is going to reduce the quality of the stories within that third volume, as it's just going to be concerned with tying up all of those loose ends. I want some coherent stories in there as well. However, if the other two volumes that we've reviewed so far have got anything to say, I think that we're certainly in for a very exciting series finale. So there we have it, that is Dalek Universe Volume 2. I'm very much looking forward to Volume 3 because so far this series has set up a very promising adventure with lots of brilliant characters. Of course, within the next box set we have Alex Kingston returning as River Song. We also have Terry Malloy as Davros in there as well. However, unlike my reviews between Volume 1 and Volume 2, we are actually going to need to wait to take a look at Volume 3 because the third and final volume is of course available later this year in October. However, I'm very much looking forward to that release when it comes out. So thank you very much for watching this review. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Do of course stay tuned on The Host Productions for regular Doctor Who content, from product reviews, audio drama reviews, and of course much more. So on that note, have a nice day, and I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.